Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you as always for your questions. Ali is here, Steve, Nicol as well, Mark Ogden, when are you going to Australia, Mark? That's on the card soon, yeah?
Oh, nice trip.
Oh, not for a couple of weeks. I'm getting a holiday first, so holiday, then the knockout stages. So August.
Oh, missing the group stages. Too good for the group stages.
Big time.
Yeah, exactly.
Too big.
Yeah. That's it, isn't it? It's
I was
essentials
told
for the
to go
group
there,
stages.
sorry. I'm missing the start of the Premier League.
Well, oh no!
Hey, that's on you.
There you go.
Could have said no.
Okay, Stevie, what are the best and worst parts of pre-season?
Well, there's not a best.
Surely seeing everyone again, the collectiveness, the tales of the summer.
But once you start running, that's it.
That's the end of that.
Yeah, there's no talking when you start the running.
Oh.
There's not a best.
No, not enjoyable at all.
The best bit about pre-season is when it's over.
Right.
Because you just want to get going. You want to get started.
What about these weird games? Like we saw United playing Leeds today, like 3 or 4 days in. Like that must be weird.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's straight. The strange thing with pre-season is when you're playing the games, it's so difficult that you almost think, am I ever going to get fit?
Oh, really?
So particularly when you play a game so early, because when you go into your first game, you think you're going to do what you've been doing all the other years.
Yes.
You think you're going to be...
The legs are just going to do what the legs do.
And then all of a sudden, after about 20 minutes, you're tired, and then you go for a ball and you can't get there, and then you're playing against a team that are probably below average, and it's still 0-0, and you're like, oh my God, when's this going to get better or easier?
Oh.
Pre-season's a real mental drag. So it is.
Pre-season stinks.
Oh, nice. Mark, I heard you couldn't even be bothered to watch the Manchester United Leeds game today. What sort of reporter are you?
Listen, I was really busy doing some more important stuff like writing interviews, so no, I didn't even know it was on.
Oh, no. Goodness me. Standards are slipping.
Can I just say about pre-season, once you get older...
Yes.
And you know your body as better than anybody else, you recognize what is your body gonna give you on a certain day. When you start doing tests, and let's just say, for sake of argument, the test is you gotta get to the end line 3 minutes.
Okay.
You don't give in or give up anything. You don't get there at 250 when you're an older guy. You don't get there at 255. You get there at 259.3.
Oh.
You learn to recognize how to do just enough to pass the test, to get through preseason, and then hopefully, eventually, once the season starts, you're ready to go. But there's nothing about preseason that excites you, and the only thing that you learn to do when you get older is to recognize how do you go about making the times on the minute, on the second, not any less. You don't give in anything in preseason.
I just thought about Maka.
Stephen Manaman.
Stevie Manaman. We were doing a pitch run. We had to do 10 full runs, right? One straight away. Bang, 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 bang. And 99% of us were breathing and doing this. And there was generally a line.
Yes.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And Maka had a newspaper, reading the newspaper, and you know those new machines you get where there's the one wheel and you stand on it?
A unicycle?
Aye.
Yeah.
I swear Maka was on a unicycle, because he wasn't even trying. He wasn't swinging his arms, he wasn't breathing. Honest, I'll tell you what, Maka was frightening. Pre-season, he just glided above the top of the surface.
I'd quite like to see you on a unicycle, Stephen. That'd be quite a sight.
Will you be gliding on top of the surface?
Seriously, frightening.
For Mark, are Chelsea looking for a goalkeeper, or are they really sticking solely with Kepa?
Well, Chelsea just like spending money, don't they? So I'm assuming they are looking for a goalkeeper. But no, I think Kepa, they're happy with him at the moment because, you know, Mendy's gone. They have to get back somebody. And I think, you know, Kepa has done okay. He's not done terribly. He bounced back last season. I think they'll stick with Kepa. They can't keep spending money. They have to stop at some point, so they have to stick with Kepa.
Mark, you must have had some good pre-seasons following Manchester United, because, like, what do? You just faff around a bit.
I tell you what, there's plenty of stories covering Man United in pre-season about defeats and craziness by Lou van Gaal, but I don't think we've got time for all that, so maybe next time.
Oh,
Wow, what the mystery.
Maybe you've got time.
oh, little tease, Mark.
He was talking about nights out and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I thought it was
exactly.
extra time. Not,
No, I remember, like, when I was on
always-
pre-season with the teams, it's great.
no, the problem with pre-season is you're always on an early flight, a 6 a.m. flight to somewhere on the other side of the country, so they're not as much
can
fun
sleep
as you
on the
think,
plane.
You know, it's basically jet lag all the way.
Says the king.
Not in economy, Stevie.
Exactly.
Not in economy.
Stevie, what's more likely? Arsenal finishing the league outside the top 4 or Liverpool winning the league?
Liverpool winning the league.
Is more likely.
Yeah. Arsenal's not finishing outside the top 4.
Well, Liverpool's not winning the league.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I'm just answering the question.
So, wait,
Arsenal is not. I don't think there's any way Arsenal finish outside.
so that's more likely. Arsenal are more likely then to finish.
Oh,
No, you're right.
A little confused.
What are you talking about? I'm right.
I know you're right. I'm just winding you up. Mark, who could replace, people like asking this question at the moment, who could replace Pep at City if he decides to coach the Spanish national team? Well, there's some politics there, isn't it, if he goes to the Spanish national team, but that's another day.
Yeah, listen, I think the reason why City keep giving him contracts is because they know there's nobody out there that can replace him. So I think if he decided he was going to go tomorrow, they've got a massive problem. I don't know. I mean, who would you say is the best coach in the world right now outside of Pep? And it's a tough one to answer. You could argue it's Jurgen Klopp, and Jurgen Klopp is not going to Man City, so you can forget Klopp. People talk about Arteta, but Arteta done enough at Arsenal? I don't think he has. So, you know, Vincent Kompany, all the obvious contenders haven't done enough. So it's a real tough one. You know, Pochettino's got a job now. I don't know what they do. I just think they keep paying Pep whenever he wants to stay.
Stevie, at their best, here we go. Which right back are you having? Lahm, Cafu, or Dani Alves? Not a bad choice, is
I
it?
think I'll go Cafu.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cafu?
Yeah.
Ali, you're agreeing?
100% I'm going Cafu.
For people who didn't see him play, maybe the younger generation, Stevie, what made him so good?
Well, he did everything,
Right.
basically. You know,
Everything
Alves,
well.
Alves can't defend.
Oof.
He's not. Dani Alves wasn't a good defender.
He's won 7,000 titles, Stevie.
That's a
be able
lot.
to,
That's
must
a
be able
lot.
to defend a
He
little
didn't have to
bit.
defend. Alexander Arnold's got a Champions League winners medal and a Premier League winners medal, but he can't
Steve,
defend.
You can't put Alexander Arnold and Dani
I'm just
Alves in the
saying.
same... You're saying that Alexander Arnold is better than Dani Alves?
I am just saying that you can have lots of trophies even though you can't defend.
That's a lot of trophies.
Dani Alves is a better defender than Alexander Arnold. Don't.
Right.
See, here's what you do.
Well, you brought him up. You brought him up, and now you've just gone back on it.
I'm just telling you, right? If I'm a left winger, I don't mind going at Dani Alves. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Whereas Cafu can do everything.
Did you play against Cafu, Ali? Did you? What,
Do it all.
I don't know if I played in that game. I was maybe comfortably seated on the bench.
Oh,
but
nice. You got nice
Yes,
views.
nice views of him streaking down the field on the right.
you
Oh,
think-
there he goes again.
Did you think he's just a poor man's Alexander Arnold?
That's a perfect spot to watch him. Yeah.
And to appreciate.
Yeah.
I actually there are many impressive things about playing against Brazil, but we seem to have been doing really well.
Right.
In our preparation, we had, we're gonna shift them to this side, and everybody comes over, and you tuck inside, and everybody's moving and shifting together. And then Roberto Carlos, he's on the left-hand side, and this is the sidelines, and we have pressure on him. Out of nowhere, he gets the ball, and one touch just changes the point of attack, and it's like a 60-yard ball to a running Cafu down the right-hand side. I was like, I thought we had him covered. Yeah. And there goes Cafu. It did not end up in a goal, but the point is, when Cafu got his head up, the options that he had inside, Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and you're just like, what do we got? We got me? We have no chance.
Cafu had 3 longs as well.
I know.
Run all day at top speed without even
It's like he was on a unicycle.
Like he was on a unicycle.
Reading a newspaper.
An electric unicycle.
Oh, wow.
And of those 3 guys, he was the best attacking player as well.
Right.
Of the guys that we just mentioned there.
Now, Ali, top 3 clubs to the Champions League next season. Who are your 3 favourites?
Manchester City. Assuming that Real Madrid get Kylian Mbappe, I'm going to say Real Madrid.
Oh, that's a big caveat.
Well, but the whole question is a caveat. And assuming that Bayern Munich get Harry Kane, I'm going to say Bayern Munich.
Oh, you're nodding?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ahead of Arsenal? What?
Yes.
Oh, that was very dismissive.
Yeah.
You think Bayern Munich are better?
You don't want to bet Arsenal don't win the Champions League this year.
I think Arsenal could go further than Bayern Munich from what we saw from Bayern last season.
Oh, he's setting you up. He's setting you up.
No, are you going to answer the question? You just want to throw something at me.
What was,
Actually, the question was...
what's the question?
Do you want to bet that Arsenal don't win the Champions League?
No,
this
Arsenal are
year?
going to win the Champions League. I'm not saying that, but you have completely dismissed the fact of comparing them to Bayern Munich.
Oh, it's me.
Well, yes.
Oh, it's me.
Because you went,
hold on.
when I
Hold
said
on.
Arsenal.
Hold on. You're the one that brought up Arsenal about the Champions League.
I know, then you made the face.
So why didn't you just say, well, Arsenal won't win the Champions League, but they'll do really well? That's what you're saying.
You think Bayern Munich are going to win the Champions League?
I'm telling you that Arsenal won't win the Champions League.
Are you saying that Bayern Munich
And
are going to
if
win
you
the
would like-
Are you telling me?
If you would like a bet that Arsenal
wait.
don't win the Champions League, I will very much take your bet.
So you think Bayern Munich are going to win the Champions League?
I never said Bayern Munich were going to win the Champions
When
League.
did I say Arsenal were going to win the Champions League?
You brought them into the conversation.
But you brought
As
Bayern
if-
you brought Bayern in. You brought Bayern into the conversation.
I never. Ali brought Bayern.
Well, and then you agreed, and you made a face, and you made a noise.
And then somebody, it wasn't you, was it?
It was not.
And it certainly wasn't me. I don't think it was Augie.
No.
Right.
Somebody said, oh, you didn't mention Arsenal. As if Arsenal's going to win the Champions League.
But you said that Bayern won't win the Champions League.
I didn't say that either.
What are you saying? What are you saying?
I never, here he is, the master of putting words in other people's
so what
mouth.
are you saying?
I never said that.
So what are you saying?
I am saying Arsenal will not win the Champions League.
But you're saying that
And I
Bayern-
asked you if you would like a bet. And you, as usual, didn't answer the question.
Well, because
and
you-
took it somewhere else about... I said Bayern Munich said this.
What, no, because you pulled a face when I said Arsenal in comparison to
Because
Bayern
they're not
Munich.
going to win the Champions League.
Are Bayern Munich going to win the Champions League?
It's possible if we get Harry Kane.
What are you pointing at Ali? He's like Harry Kane.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's
Thank you.
possible if they get Harry Kane.
If they get Harry Kane, they've got a better chance of winning the Champions League than Arsenal.
Oh,
Yes.
aye, absolutely.
Okay. Been all Scottish.
Look at him, hey. Trying to get his sell out all his nonsense again.
No, I was still back.
You brought Arsenal up, John.
I would still back Arsenal. Even if they get Harry Kane. I think
Tell
Arsenal
you
go
what,
further.
so I'll have a bet with you then.
Go on.
If
Here we
Bayern
go.
Munich get Harry Kane,
Right.
I'll have a bet with you, $50, the Bayern Munich get further than Arsenal.
Well, let's see what happens, shall we? It's a long way to go in the transfer window. I'm not throwing my $50 around.
yeah, back down as usual.
Hey.
Mark, top 3. Who have you got?
Well, Man City, obviously. Going for the Champions
Yes.
League. We're talking Champions League.
Yes, Champions
Man
League, yes.
City, yeah. I was all confused. Man City, Real Madrid, and with or without Harry Kane, Bayern Munich. And I have to say
not
that
Arsenal?
the team most likely to stop City winning it next. Funnily enough, no.
Bayern
I
Munich
think the
are not
team
very
most likely
good.
to stop City winning it next year.
That's
They're better than
why
Arsenal in Europe in the Champions League.
I don't know, Mark. They've not. They can't defend, even though they get Harry Kane.
Oh,
And you're Mr. Bundesliga, so your opinion doesn't count.
what?
You want to agree with
Yeah, super.
No,
He's
it's
giving all that. Well, again, I'm going to
You do
agree
know
with him.
Bayern Munich were undefeated in the group stage.
Oh, yes, I do. And
We're
apparently
perfect.
then they sacked someone, didn't they? And
Well,
appointed
but
someone
that's a different conversation.
and that someone who is still in charge. I
That's a different conversation.
Mark, do the Premier League clubs and staff feel more distant? Oh, we've lost Mark.
Ah.
Oh, and this is a really marky question.
Okay, here we go.
So I'll tell you what, we will move on. Shall we move on from that? Yeah, no, Stevie can answer it. Mark, do the Premier League clubs, and not Mark, Stevie, maybe if I keep doing this, it will get him back. Do the Premier League clubs and staff feel more distant from local media in a time of social media and global fan bases? I can't imagine Guardiola or Ten Hag having drinks with Manchester Evening News or the Mirror reporters when Joe Royle and Alex Ferguson might have.
I don't think they'll have drinks and stuff with them, but I think that all the staff on that side will will tell the likes of Guardiola that it's important that we have a connection with the local guys. It's one thing when all the big papers come down for games and stuff.
Right.
But they will absolutely tell the manager that, you know, I understand that all the big papers get more readers and the whole thing, but we need to take care of the local media. And so 100% they'll understand that to have the local guys on your side is actually quite important.
What was it like for you dealing with the media when you were in charge of the Revs, given that maybe you were dealing with people whose soccer knowledge wasn't comparable to some others?
Well, I dealt with I mean, and again, it was almost all local people.
Right.
But I absolutely had there was a couple of people I would talk to a lot more. Just because.
And would you call them out?
Just because they did know a bit more.
Would you call them out if they said something about your
Well, if
boys?
people were talking rubbish, I would call them out.
Right.
But generally, it's not a good idea. You can't win. You generally cannot win.
Okay.
Unless what they're saying is really just silly. So then, when somebody does come out with something like that, and again, it would always be somebody who, as you said, their knowledge wasn't particularly great. But there was actually an occasion when there was somebody asked me a question about why. This was in my last year, and we were bad. And one of the journalists who I would say knew pretty much nothing about football asked me why other players weren't getting a chance when we were getting beat every week.
Okay, fair question.
I didn't know what to say.
Oh.
I didn't know what to say because I couldn't tell the truth.
Which was their worst.
Well, the truth was, what I should have said was, well, let me tell you something. If you think this lot that are playing are bad, you should see this other lot. That was the real answer, and I didn't know what to say. I was completely stumped. And I could see a couple of the boys looking at me because they knew.
Right.
A couple of the local guys that I would talk to all the time, they knew. But I couldn't say anything.
Do we have Mark back? Let's see. Is Mark here? Yes, we do have Mark back. Mark, the question is about relationship changing between journalists and managers now compared to the past. Of course, in the past, you were banned by Sir Alex Ferguson from a press conference. Do you think that would happen now?
Maybe not, but I did hear the initial question when you spoke about going for drinks with Fergie. We never went for drinks with Fergie.
You didn't.
I think the relationship has... No, I didn't, no. The situation nowadays is that managers like Pep are the big ones. They don't really spend too much time cultivating relationships with the media. But, you know, they still know who we are. And, you know, Klopp and Pep and Pochettino are very good. So I won't say there's more distance. I just think they have more demands. They have more demands in terms of TV requirements, club websites, that sort of thing. But it wasn't a paradise back 10, 15 years ago. It was still difficult, but I think, you know, I mean, obviously I dealt with Fergie, so I've obviously got a unique perspective on these things because Fergie was so distant and standoffish. But no, I think the modern managers are open and receptive to what your needs are. But Pep, for instance, Pep won't do anything that is not in his contract to do. So if he's not contractually obliged to do an interview with a newspaper or a television station, he won't do it. Most of the managers will. They'll do different. I mean, Jurgen Klopp has spoken to me 2 or 3 times for ESPN over the last couple of years. Didn't have to do it, no contractual obligation, but he did it. But Pep won't do that. So, you know, some managers have different views of themselves than others. But yeah, it changes. But, you know, I don't think it's any worse than it used to be.
And signs of growth of the sport in this country and the coverage of Major League Soccer or the United States men's national team, when you have a dedicated beat writer for that local soccer team or multiple dedicated writers.
Right.
It wasn't the case
when
certainly when I was playing, you may have one, but that guy last week was writing about basketball or hockey or football or something else. Soccer wasn't his thing. It's almost as if he was told, hey, how about you go cover this guy's now? Now you have guys that over the years have been the dedicated writers for certain media outlets for a specific team. And so there is a knowledge now and an understanding that wasn't there even 10 years ago. I think that's a sign of growth. It's not just what happens on the field, it's also how we cover the game. And the game is covered now in a different manner and with different depth of knowledge than it was 20, 25 years ago.
It's interesting using England as an example. You compare the way in which Gareth Southgate has kind of cultivated this relationship with the media in comparison to other managers, Mark. Do you think that would have helped them in the past, the whole golden generation and all that sort of stuff, if there was a better relationship with the media?
Well, it boils down to results at the end of the day, and Southgate's had good results, hasn't he? I think that helps. If Southgate had the results that Roy Hodgson had or Capello had, the papers would have gone after him and the media would have gone after him. But Southgate's a bright guy, he's intelligent, and he won't give a predictable answer. If you can ask a question and he might go in a completely different direction, and that's what you want sometimes. You want the manager to be intelligent enough to think on his feet and say, no, I disagree with that point, and this is what I think, and not to just play the PR game. And Southgate is good at that. He doesn't play the PR game. He gives a good opinion or a good insight. And I think as a journalist, you want someone that's going to give you something that isn't what you expect. You don't want a PR release every time a manager opens his mouth. And Southgate is good at that. But ultimately, it boils down to results. If you hadn't got England to a Euro final or a semi-final of a World Cup, then he probably wouldn't be here now. But even after last time at the World Cup, there were question marks over his future. I mean, I was asking the questions as well. People that saying that he's a bit safe, he's a bit conservative, but he survived. But because he's built up such a goodwill of goodwill because of the results he's had. But that's what it boils down to. Whether they're nice to you or not, if they lose games, they lose the job.
Just switching from managers to players. I know when I was interviewing players back in the day, it was hard. They were obviously conscious of not saying the wrong thing, Mark. I feel now when you see the likes of Jude Bellingham, Jack Grealish, Declan Rice, those sort of players, there seems to be an understanding that if they come out, that they can basically be themselves and you're not going to get crucified for it.
Yeah, but I think those guys are a bit of a rarity. I think it has gone the other way. I think many players now are so frightened of saying something that they might get pulled up on, or people might misinterpret on social media, or they might give an honest opinion and it will be dissected and, like I said, misinterpreted. That they're frightened of saying things, and the clubs are warning not to say things. The agents are warning them not to say things. I mean, I always found that when you speak to a player that's late 20s, early 30s, they're the best people to interview because they've got a bit more confidence, a bit more self-assurance. They are prepared to give an opinion. They've been around the block long enough to know that they can trust certain people and they can say certain things. But the younger players, I just think that the coach now too much. I think the personality of coach is coached out of the younger players, and I think people like Bellingham are a rarity but an absolute diamond because you want that kind of intelligence from a player and that ability to say what he thinks. But yeah, it is harder. The older players are the better players, but they grow up, they have more experience, they're more mature, and they're not quite as frightened of the club or the managers they would have been maybe when they were 20, 21.
It seems incredible when I think about it now that when I joined Liverpool in the early 80s, the press, there was probably 5 or 6 press guys that went everywhere with us. And when we were out, they would be out in the same places. And as things happen, there's always...
What sort of things, Stephen?
Well, we were in Israel, in the square, and we started playing drinking games.
As you do.
This was ahead of the Champions League final?
No.
Oh, this was a different...
This was a different one. And they were all sat at the table over there, and there was about 16 or 17 of ours, and we're playing these drinking games where everybody's paralytic, and it ends up pushing and shoving.
Right.
John McGregor throws a punch, hits Alan Kennedy. Alan Kennedy gets it in the nose. Black eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing was said. Not a word. They knew that. Well, they knew that if they did that, then nobody would speak to them. But we also kind of had a thing where they knew that they wouldn't say it anyway.
Right.
We had the trust that if something like that was in front of them, they wouldn't say anything.
You had an interesting relationship with the media in the fact that I feel you're quite open with them. And like you would go on Question of Sport was like this big, quiz, and like 20 million people would watch in England. It was huge. You'd go on that, and then you think of the FA Cup final day. The cameras are in your house with Eleanor, and all the build-up of that. Were you conscious that this was something that you were open to, or how does that
Every
happen?
single thing that Oggy just said, because by that stage I never used to open my mouth.
Right.
I would just go round the outside, so that I didn't. And it would always be the same sort of ones that would talk to them. And you'd be listening. One, you'd be listening, because obviously if you're young, you want to learn, but you're listening in case they said anything so the boys could wind them up.
Right.
But it's exactly what Augie said. I started doing all that stuff when I was 27, 28.
Right.
You know, I was 19 when I went to Liverpool. And by the time I got to that age, I knew exactly what not. I just knew which roads not to go down. And if somebody tried to get you down it, or even mistakenly brought something up,
you know.
You just kind of have a sixth sense. And so it makes it easier. You don't think about it, you just do it. And it comes naturally.
You know what's funny though is, so Mark and Stevie have talked about being cautious as to what to say, what not to say, knowing what are some of the subjects that you can touch upon. And that still remains the case today, up until they go away with their national team.
Oh yeah,
they go away with their national team, and it's almost like they forget that it's a global coverage of the game, and then you go and say something dumb that you wouldn't say on a weekly basis.
Yep.
You say it over there, expecting that nobody's gonna find out.
There's so many examples of that, isn't it? Like Ravanelli,
Barnsley,
Anelka, it's like all of them.
The Dutch guy, who was the Dutch guy? He said the Barnsley supporters, all the women, they all drink pints. They'll drink pints of lager, and they've got teeth missing.
Oh, beautiful. Were you, going back to question sport, were you a mystery guest as well?
Aye.
So mystery guest would be like a different camera angles, never really showed who the person was, and then they had to guess. So what was your, because there was a theme, what was your theme?
I was in the garden. I was doing the garden.
Of course.
I was doing the garden.
Of course.
And did they guess who you were?
I think so. I can't remember. I can't really remember. I used to get them all.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I went through.
Yeah.
I mean, I went through a stage where if I got any of the questions wrong, sitting in the house,
yes,
I wasn't happy.
No.
Because I used to.
Jimmy White was always the answer.
Oh,
pretty much. That was it.
You have written rugby.
Rugby league. Right. That is it.
Rugby league.
Rugby league. I want it.
Chariots of Fire.
Yeah, only if it was Marno Fire. That's all I knew.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There we go. That's it. It's a very niche way to end extra time. Thank you very much. Look up Question Sport on YouTube.
Yeah. That show was not available.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Hillary Hanley.
Oh, it'd be perfect.
Didn't get that one in Venezuela.
David Coleman was the host.
Oh, David Coleman.
Ah, yeah. Emlyn Hughes, Bill Beaumont. Oh, memories.
Princess Anne.
Princess Anne was on.
Princess Anne was on.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.